and I will start with this conference. And first of all, by thanking Dr. Luís Neves, National Director of the Portuguese Judiciary Police, that is our host today, and Dr. Luísa Proença, his deputy, that is here with us as well. Professor Rui Abrunhosa Gonçalves is the Director General of the Portuguese Prison Service and a well-known and respected academic in the field of corrections as well. Dr. Elisa Costa Santos, she's a member of the board of directors of the Portuguese Employment and Training Institute. Mrs. Nadia Ratkovska, who is, besides being a good friend and a representative of the Bulgarian Prison Service, is also the chairperson of the PCCP, the Council for Penological Cooperation of the Council of Europe. Thank you for being here. Dr. Carlos Sousa, the chairman of the National Trade Union of Prison Officers from Portugal. Mr. Stefan Teorok, president of the Trade Union of Penitentiary Policemen from Romania. Mr. Gustav Tolvin, who is the executive director of Europris, the European Organization of Prison Services. Mr. Dorin Morishan, chair of the Training and Development Network and representative of the president of the International Corrections and Prison Association in this event. Mr. Torben Adams, that will join us this afternoon, is the international coordinator of one of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime Programs. Dr. Vitor Costa from the BSAFE Lab of the University of Beira Interior. Mrs. Laura Kikas, President of EPTA, the European Penitentiary Training Academies. Thank you for honoring us as well with your presence. Mr. Marc Serron, Deputy Director General for Training and Research of the Center of Legal Studies of the Justice Department of the Generalitat of Catalonia. Mrs. Jana Kohler, representative of the Saxonian Training Center for Prison Officers. Mr. Cédric Lebosset, head of the International Cooperation of the École Nationale d'Administration Pénitentiaire of France. Mr. Flores Mulder, head of training of the Swiss Center of Expertise in Prison and Probation. Mr. Mark Dowie, head of delivery and development of the Ministry of Justice in the UK. Mrs. Natasha Porter, one of our speakers, CEO of the Unlock Graduates Programme. Mr. Sascha Neuendorf, representative of the Justice Academy of Berlin. Mr. Sven-Erik Skotte, representative of the Cruz University College of the Norwegian Correctional Service. Mr. Vitor Ferreira, who is the head of the Portuguese Penitentiary Training Center. Mrs. Manuela Chitoiu, Deputy Director of the National School of the Prison Policemen in Romania. Mrs. Eugenia Inácio, representative of the National Agency of the Erasmus Programme. Dear partners and respective delegations, so in your names, I also thank the delegations, with Dr. Alexander Volpach, that unfortunately will not be able to join us today, but to the German and the Bremen delegation that is here. Thank you so much. Mrs. Kathleen van der Vijver, representative of the Belgian Prison Service. Dr. Jorge Monteiro, representing as well the Portuguese delegation in this project. Mr. Adrian Neague from the Trade Union of Penitentiary Policemen. Dr. Carlos Sousa, President of the Union. Dr. Carolina Pereira from IPS, representing our team. Dr. Vitor Costa from the university. Dear advisory board members, and I'm finishing this long list of names, but I think it's really important that we all acknowledge the different delegations that we have in this room. So dear advisory board members, Mrs. Manuela Chitoiu, that I just mentioned, from Deputy Director of the National Academy for Prison Policemen of Romania, Mr. Ed Wozniak, former Executive Director of ICPA and member of this advisory board, Mr. Jörg Lorenz, representing the Bremen Ministry of Justice, Dr. Mark Steiper, who is not here, but that participated as member of the advisory board, and Mr. Harre Hoydel. Thank you so much for being here as well and being a member of the advisory board. I just remembered that the first time we met in Lisbon was in 2006, and at that time there was no Halden prison, I think, so we are not world known for that situation. But we were discussing innovation in prisons already at that time. So thank you for being here. It's a big honor. So dear colleagues, dear friends, welcome to the sunny Lisbon. It was hard, to get the sun that we are having here today, but I hope you can enjoy it. Today we gathered here 95 participants, heads of service, prison officers, prison governors, heads of training academies and researchers, representing 13 countries, 15 correctional services, 15 penitentiary training academies, two trade unions and representatives of European Federation of Unions, 2 international multilateral organizations, 2 sectorial organizations representing more than 55 prison and probation administrations, and 3 universities. I think it's a quite impressive turnout for a final conference of a project. In the last decades, the world has witnessed an increasing number of inmates. In Europe alone, there is almost 1.4 million citizens that are under custody. In the Europe, which is an enlarged Europe that is part of the Council of Europe. There are more than 300,000 correctional officers who are in fact responsible for the custody of this inmate. They work in most cases in a challenging and under-resourced environment of prisons in the 52 administrations in the 47 Council of Europe member states. Although much of the role of the prison officer encompasses routines and administrative duties, these professionals are also responsible for a wide range of tasks that relate to prisoner well-being and rehabilitation, including supporting vulnerable and marginalized inmates and inmates from diverse age cohorts with different mental conditions and backgrounds. It's therefore widely recognized that the relationship between inmates and staff are at the heart of the prison. These relationships must balance humanity, compassion, personal authority, assertiveness, and the willingness to impose boundaries. However, prison officer education had received little attention over the last decades. The PO21 project, Prison Officers for the 21st Century, emerges in an European context that shows a big difference in policies and practices, inhibiting also the mobility of prison officers between member states, and in some cases hindering the implementation of European framework decisions on applying the principles of mutual recognition to judgments in criminal matters. The European Parliament and the Council of Europe have acknowledged this situation and called for urgent action. It's also recognized that prison officers' initial and continuous training presents training gaps, and that prison officers face challenges today and in the future that require a different set of skills and behaviors than those for which they have been trained so far. There's an urgent need to agree on the initial and continuous vocational education and training provided to prison officers in the future and at European level. It took us 3 years to mature the idea of this project. So it was not something that we took the pen or got in front of the computer and start writing it. It took us 3 years to mature the idea, 3 years to establish the necessary strategic sectorial alliance involving correctional administrations, their representatives, correctional academies, and prison officer trade unions. It took 1 more year to get the necessary funds, and 3 years, more than 3 years, to develop the project because we had the pandemic in the middle, so we had to extend some of our work. So today we will present and discuss the products and results of this project, namely the proposal for an improved training curriculum to be used as part of the initial or continuous training of officers, the learning resources database that has been developed, the professional profile, and the policy recommendations to improve prison officers' training. We will also discuss perspectives towards training harmonization throughout Europe, training recognition, and certification. So during this conference, you are invited to reflect on these challenges and products and share your thoughts and experience with other practitioners, not only inside these rooms, but of course during coffee break, during lunch, and hopefully if you join us over dinner. We hope that the products developed and that we'll see inside the boxes that were given to you, and of course that's just what we'll have, and we will explain that later, it's only some fishes of the products, because that would be thousands of pages if we have to give it to you today. So in those boxes, what you will see is the explanation of each product and where you can download the full product so that it can be used by your institutions. So we hope that these products can be implemented and contribute to the recognition of such a complex and needed profession. And yes, and that may these outcomes also honor the memory of Gary Hill, one of our colleagues throughout this journey, who contributed heavily to some of the outputs, and that is no longer with us. Thank you all very much for being here. And so without further ado, I will just pass the floor to Dr. Luís Neves, our host, head of the police, of the Portuguese Judiciary Police.
Thank you very much. Welcome. My dear colleagues, my English is very bad, but I talk always, because we have a police office in the prison, we have always an international language. It's possible to communicate. But Tiago, if I need, in the finish, you will help me, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be present in this important meeting. And I said always, when we received our colleagues, partners, this house is the house of the justice, not police, judicial police. Police is only one member of the part of the justice. So, my dear director and friend Rui Abrunhosa, this house is your house, and the colleagues we are present in this meeting. First, I have a speech, technical speech, but after I will talk with my heart, because it's the most important. First, and after greeting everyone present, I would like to welcome you and thank you, personality and institutionality, for the kind invitation to be at this table during this welcome section. It is an honor of the Judicial Police to host this final conference, although not being a project partner entity. During my career, I have 20 years in the Judicial Police. The 12 first years, I worked in the operations, violent crime, murders, terrorism, hate crime, traffic human beings, traffic of the guns, robbery, the most important robberies, and all the time we talk the criminal organizations when have violence is our responsibility. Gangs, I have a colleague with Sweden, gangs, motorcycle gangs, the most important operation during the last years was placed in Portugal. 85 members put in the jail. Is a very important operation. After more 12 years, I was director this unity. In the last 5 years, I am general director of the PG. Our job is the criminal investigation. We need to know who is responsible for this kind of the crimes. And finally, investigations is our job. We put this guy in the jail. It's our job. But when we talk about people, persons, the most important after is the moment this kind of person return to the liberty, his freedom. Tiago, por favor. A visão que a polícia tem
Police vision
é que concluída a reclusão,
once they conclude the privation of liberty,
essas pessoas possam ser verdadeiramente livres e que possam gozar da liberdade e que sejam felizes.
so that these persons can return to society and be a full 100% citizen, again enjoying their freedom and their rights.
Têm famílias, têm um meio social onde podem e devem ser igualmente úteis.
They have family, they have a community where they're going to return, in which they must be useful and provide some of their contribution.
São pessoas, serão sempre pessoas.
So they are persons, they are human beings, and this will always be their condition.
Mas esse trabalho hérculo de regresso à liberdade de pessoas que muitas vezes estão muitos anos em reclusão,
But this return to society of this enormous work to support the return to society of people that was for a long time in criminal, let's say, behavior or had criminal behavior and background,
necessita de ter um corpo feliz no seu trabalho.
requires to have people, professionals that are happy and motivated to perform their work.
Profissionais felizes.
Happy professionals.
E isso só é possível com um corpo de reinserção e guardas prisionais e toda a estrutura dos serviços prisionais, com pessoas com brilho. E esse brilho
And this is only possible if prison officers and other key staff that works in these services they are happy and they have the necessary conditions to see that their work is meaningful and they have, let's say, their eyes have this light and they transmit this light to others.
E esse brilho e profissionalismo assentam na formação e nos direitos dos trabalhadores.
And of course, this motivation, this capacity, this professionalism can only be possible if they are trained and if they have their rights as workers attained.
Ninguém pode cuidar dos outros se não for feliz e se não estiver bem inserido e se não tiver direitos.
Of course, no one. We cannot expect that someone is taking care of other if this person is not also with the right conditions and in the right and happy and well, let's say, integrated in their professional career.
E por isso termino dizendo, pelo que li e pelo que partilhei, que este projeto que hoje se finaliza.
So I would end saying that this project that today we celebrate the ending and its conclusion
constitui passo relevante para a concretização deste objetivo.
It is a very strong step. It's a significant step for what I said before, or to provide one more piece to these professionals have their context.
Termino desejando-lhes uma boa jornada de trabalho e que desfrutem deste momento.
So enjoy this day and good work to you all.
And thank you very much for your time and welcome.
So we'll now have the floor, Professor Rui Brunhosa, Director General of the Portuguese Prison and Probation Service.
Good morning. It is a pleasure for me being here and welcoming you to this wonderful auditorium. And first of all, I want to thank Dr. Luís Neves for giving us the opportunity to being all here. It's a very wonderful place, and of course we are secure because we are with the police, you know. So this is fine. Also, I want to thank you, my dear colleague Pedro das Neves, mainly because he he welcomed all of you, and I don't have to tell all the names that he told, because I won't be able to do that. So it's really a great satisfaction to me as General Director of the Rehabilitation and Prison Services to welcome you to this final conference of the European project 21 Prison Officers of the First One Century. I really think that this conference will be a great achievement because this project really encompasses all the main interests that this recently new team of the General Director is working on. We are very fond of all initiatives that have to do with research to improve our prison systems, European prison systems that deal with prison officers, with all the staff that work in prisons, and provides better services to our inmates and to our clients in general, because some of them are not inmates but are in the outside world. So studying and increasing knowledge about the scenarios and challenges facing prison systems and all their professionals is an essential exercise for those who, like the people and entities that are part of this partnership, which I salute again, intend to anticipate solutions for the future based on scientific knowledge about the phenomena of criminality and prevention of recidivism, a task that the professionals of this Directorate General carry out so nobly on a daily basis. Of course, among them are the professionals that belong to the great group of the prison officers, which I want to welcome here in the person of the principal union that he's here representing all the prison officers. And in particular, this group deserves a lot of recognition and a lot of, I would say, respect, mainly because they have a very important profession, not always given the value that should be given either by the authorities and for society in general. People mostly see prison officers in most cases as those who custody prisoners and nothing else. But this is not true. As I will say a little bit later, for me, prison officers will always be individuals, agents of social reintegration that work with the prisoners in a daily basis, and that should be recognized and emphasized. So I believe that the results of the project, namely the definition of a set of essential characteristics and competencies of prison officers in the present and in the future, as well as the design of recommendations and training curricula, will be very important instruments for the work of continuous improvement and preparation of all professionals of this important professional group in prisons. So finally, I would like to address a word of recognition and acknowledgement to all the elements and organizations of this successful partnership, even if we have the pandemic in the middle of this working process. That carry out all the activities and results of this project, wishing for the continuation of good projects and good partnerships on our Director General as the most relevant desire of being, of continuing to be a partner. So thank you all and have a wonderful conference. See you again.
Throughout our project, there was a companion that worked with us in most of our meetings, in most of our workshops, and that some of you know from a lot of projects. So I would just like to acknowledge and recognize Gary for the work that he has done, also in the PO21 project. He started as a correctional officer, and he was a correctional officer for over 58 years in different professional assignments. He devoted his life to the advancement of correctional practice. He was a founding father of the ICPA, International Corrections and Prisons Association, and represented the organizations in the past decade as chair, the organization as chair of its staff training and development network. Gary provided in-country consultation and helped writing training manuals for correctional workers in more than 40 nations, while serving as the corrections specialist for several international associations and universities. For the United Nations Department of Peacekeeping Operations, he developed a guidance manual for mission personnel working with corrections. Having worked in this field since 1964, he was recognized by the American Correctional Association with its highest award for his contributions to corrections. Gary Hill was the chief executive of SEGA Services, which worked internationally in providing secretariat, consulting, and editorial services, and president of Contact Center, a private nonprofit for international information and referral clearinghouse working in the areas of human services, criminal justice, and illiteracy. He was an active member of the PO21 team and actively worked with us during this period. So I would like us to make a tribute to him and just have to stand and have a minute of silence, and then we proceed with our work. Thank you. We will not forget his service, his kindness, and commitment. Thank you all. And now we proceed with our work. I think Dr. Luís Neves will now change the panels. I hope we'll be seeing you throughout the day.